Nisa binti Afzali. My mention number is 2888. I will present about introduction audit of PPE, which is property, plant and equipment. So, what is PPE? PPE is company fixed asset. It is a physical or long-term intangible asset that have a life of more than 1 year and used in business operation and not acquired for the purpose of resale. The most common PPE are building, machinery and others. Yet, PPE often represent the largest category of asset in the balance sheet and expenses associated with a material factor in the determination of net profit. Adjustment is required to ensure that management recognize PPE in accordance with the standard established by the authority. Lastly, audit of PPE cycle considered as important because PPE normally constitutes a significant portion of the total asset, particularly in manufacturing activity, because it may be overvalued or undervalued. Therefore, we need to properly audit the PPE so that company cannot manipulate the information required by the consumer. So next, main objective. There are few main objectives of audit PPE. The first main objective is to consider internal control over PPE. We need to ensure that management do a separate subsidiary ledger for each fixed asset, used to reduce error and allow user to easily identify any out of the ordinary expenses. Next is to determine the existence of recorded PPE and have ownership right. By verifying that, auditor need to ensure that every PPE acquisition transaction have the supporting document like grant, invoice and so on, and need to measure the existence of PPE by doing site visit or any relevant activity. The last objective is to ensure that the valuation of cost PPE in accordance with generally accepted accounting principle. PPE should have been stated correctly at cost less accumulated depreciation and presented in the balance sheet at net book value.
Hi, my name is Amira Nabira binti Kamal Arifin and my metric number is 288811, and today I will be presenting on the internal controls. The internal control system is defined as the actions the board and management take to manage risk and increase the likelihood that established goals will be achieved. An internal control system is essential for an organization to remain functional and operational. In auditing the internal controls of property, plant and equipment (PPE), the auditor needs to identify the controls related to accounting and test whether the control is operating effectively. There are 4 internal controls that an auditor should review that relates to PPE. Firstly is the process of purchasing PPE. The purchase of a PPE is a significant decision and the business would commit to large payments of money. Thus, this is requiring high-level management to authorize such purchases. For example, when company wants to expand their production line and buy new machines, the budget to purchase the new machines must be in that financial year's budget, and they must go through a proper process to approve the purchase of the machines. Secondly is information controls. Information controls ensure that reliable information is available for calculation of property, plant and equipment. For example, the allocation of depreciations, recording disposals, and etc. Thirdly, control over expenditure incurred on PPE acquired or self-constructed. Proper control over PPE through the use of a control account or subsidiary ledger, where the purchases of PPE must have an excellent record to maintain. For example, this method is to ensure that amount expended do not exceed the amount authorized and controls the allocation of expenditure between capital and revenue. Last but not least, safeguarding asset. All assets should be appropriately identified by tagging them, kept in good working order, and protected from theft and damage. Adequate insurance should be maintained against any unforeseen circumstances. This control ensures that the assets owned by the entity are safeguarded and any loss on damage or destruction of such assets are made good through. For examples are insurance of assets or warranties. And that's all from me. Thank you.
I will present about recognition of audit PPE. The first recognition of audit PPE is auditor should ensure that the cost of PPE is recognized as an asset only when the cost have been reliably measured and management determine the future economic benefit will flow to the company. Next, auditor should also verify that entity have recognized a fixed asset in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principle applicable to the entity. This auditor should verify that PPE under construction are recognized as capital work in progress until it is ready for its intended use. Lastly, auditor should verify that the relevant PPE are capitalized as a component if the useful life of the component differs significantly for the useful life by each major part of the cost relation to the total cost of the item and depreciate separately.
Assalamualaikum and good day. My name is Nur Shatira binti Muhammad Jeffrey. My matrix number is 288880. I will present about developing audit plan in auditing of property, plant and equipment. In order to have an appropriate audit plan, we have to consider all the factors involved, which are materiality and inherent risk factors. According to ISA 320, the decision of materiality is a factor of professional judgment, and it is affected by the auditor's perception of clients or financial statement need for the financial information. Assets, liability, equity, revenue and expenses might give impact to determine the suitable standard. The factors that influencing the inherent risk while doing the audit on PPE is the nature of the business. The next factor of inherent risk is company's operation. Furthermore, the complexity of transaction of PPE will influence the inherent risk at the transaction level. To auditor, the inherent risk tends to be more subjective compared to other components in audit. However, there are observable factors to consider that can help auditor to assess the inherent risk.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Aisnaim bin Faris and my matrix number is 288723, and now I'll be explaining about the substantive procedures for property, plant and equipment. So, substantive procedures is to create evidence that an auditor assembles to support the assertion that there are no material misstatements in regard to the completeness, validity and accuracy of the financial records of an entity. These financial records include tangible assets, which are property, plant and equipment. There are two types of substantive procedures. The first one is test of details, which refers to accumulating evidence that helps evaluate the correctness of the account balances, disclosures and other accounting transactions made by the business entity in the financial statement. And then the second one is analytical procedures, in which the evaluations are made on the financial statements by studying the reasonable relationship between financial and non-financial data. For instance, computation of ratios comparing past year's balances with the current year. Next is the possible substantive procedures for property, plant and equipment to support the assertion in the financial statement. The first assertion is existence and occurrence, in which the auditor will pick a sample PPE from the PPE register and perform a physical inspection. The second one is completeness, in which the auditor will choose a sample PPE through observation and trace to the PPE register. The auditor also will inspect PPE addition to sales and purchase agreement, and also inspect PPE additions and disposal through meetings with the management for confirmation or authorization. The third assertion is rights and obligations. Depending on the type of PPE, if freehold, the auditor will inspect the title deed. If motor vehicles, the auditor will check vehicle registration document. If leasehold land and building, the auditor will check the lease agreement, and for other PPE, the auditor will check purchase invoice. The fourth one is accuracy, classification and valuation. PPE requires proper valuation at lower cost or market price. So, in order to achieve that, the auditor will first inspect to ensure that the gain or loss on PPE is disclosed properly, and the auditor also will inspect whether the valuer's valuation, experience and independence if PPE has been revalued. And last but not least, presentation and disclosure. In this, auditor will verify that PPE assets and related expenses, gains and losses are properly recognized and classified in the financial records. The auditor also will verify the appropriateness of disclosures relevant to cost, value, depreciation method and useful life.
Good day, Doctor. My name is Balamurgan, son of Saranababan. My matric number is 288853. Today, I'm going to present about audit verification procedure of property, plant and equipment. The first audit procedure is physical examination, which means physical verification of assets. The second one is inquiry and scanning, which means test of control on purchasing of fixed asset to booking of assets on fixed asset registered. Moving on to the third audit procedure, which is general procedure. General procedure is a substantive audit procedure on newly purchased asset. And the next one is analytical review, which means substantive analytical audit procedure on depreciation. Documentation is also one of the audit procedure, which the auditor should examine the title deeds in order to ensure they are in the name of the client. Inquiry and scanning means the client has constructed the building. The auditor should examine the certificates received from the contractor. The sixth one is confirmation. The example for audit procedure for confirmation is the auditor should inspect the lease agreement to find out value of the property and its duration. And the seventh one is recomputation, where the annual charge for depreciation will be arrived at by dividing the total cost by the term of the lease. The final audit procedure is vouching, where the auditor has to check minutes of meeting for approval. Thank you.
So the last one I will talk about conclusion, which is after making a report, we know that audit in PPE cycle is very important for every company. This is because PPE are the largest item in the balance sheet. Although the risk is low to moderate, but most manufacturing organizations usually take the PPE as a risk area during their annual audit due to its materiality. Also, audit is crucial in preventing debilitating misstatement in company record and reports. This is because we all know that company financial statement must be accurate and reflect accurate information in order for shareholders, investors, creditors, and others to make wise decision. We also need to ensure that the company follow every guideline and procedure so that the amount represents a true and fair value. That's all. Thank you.